All right. Um, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right. I think we can probably get started now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Philip Wu with the City of Pittsburgh Department of City Planning, and I'll be helping the Bloomfield-Garfield Corporation tonight to moderate this development activities meeting on proposed townhome residences to be located on the 500 block of North Aiken Avenue. This project is being presented tonight for the Garfield community, and we have Brighton Taylor and Alan Dunn here who will be presenting shortly. But before we get into the presentation, just want to go over the slide related to participating in tonight's Zoom meeting. First, if anyone is who's not a panelist on this call has any technical issues, please use the chat feature or the Q&A tool, and I'll try to help you out with any issues, technical issues. As for any questions for our presenters tonight, you can either type out your question using the Q&A tool, or you can speak it out loud using the raise hand button. And if you're on your phone and would like to ask a question, you can also press *9 to raise your hand. And lastly, this meeting is being recorded to allow any stakeholders who are not able to attend to watch at a later time, and for BGC to post online if so desired. All right, so, and one last thing. After the presentation, we'll excuse the applicant to allow community members to discuss the projects internally and and express any other concerns or anything related to the board or commission requests. So just a little bit about what a development activities meeting is, if you have not attended one yet. A development activities meeting, or DAM for short, is a meeting that is held as part of the City of Pittsburgh's Registered Community Organization Program. And BGC in this case is the Registered Community Organization, or RCO for short, for the Garfield neighborhood. Whenever a project applicant requests to go before the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board of Adjustments, Historic Review Commission, or the Art Commission, or some combination of the above, for a public hearing, and whose projects meet certain thresholds. So anything from square footage, number of new units, certain types of variances, certain types of project applications, etc. Anytime they meet that certain thresholds, the projects must have a development activities meeting to engage the community in areas where there's an RCO. So development activities meeting provides community stakeholders an opportunity to learn about projects in their community and to share any concerns that they may have before the project moves on to a public hearing. And stakeholders will also be able to testify at the hearing or to submit written testimony to the applicable board or commission. In tonight's case, since the Split Rock real estate team is proposing 4 new housing units, that is the trigger that requires that this meeting be held to engage the Garfield community. So what I'll be doing in the background as a neighborhood planner is to listen in on the presentation and any community concerns, any questions, any comments from both panelists and attendees and from the applicants, and taking notes and completing a report on the proceedings of the meeting that will go to the zoning board. And we have Rick Swartz and Nina Gibbs to just briefly go over an overview of the BGC and any engagement they've had with the Split Rock real estate team.
Okay, I guess that task will fall to me. I had one extended phone conversation with Brighton and with Tom Taylor about the project. I think they contacted me about 30 days ago and went over the project in some detail. We talked about the design of the units, the siting of the units on the parcels that they've acquired, and what the projected sales prices would be for the unit. So they were very forthcoming in that conversation. And at the time, I didn't realize that they would need to do a development activities meeting. So I apologize for that, Brighton. That was my mistake. Really, I think tonight, according to what we know, there are some variances that the project is going to be seeking. I don't know if Phil's going to explain those in any depth, but we're interested in hearing what people in the community have to say about the project.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick. And yeah, I'll let Brighton and Alan explain the variance requests and a bit about any subdivisions or consolidations they're seeking. But yeah, if one of you, Alan or Brighton, would like to share your screen, I think we can get started on the presentation.
So this is an aerial view, obviously, of the greater Garfield area. But we could take a look at the parcels as they were. Actually, the building you see is now gone, and much of the site has been cleared due to some coal remediation work that had to be performed. As we look at it, the hill on the left is Cornwall Street, running perpendicular from North Aiken, where the facade of the building was facing. And the photo on the right gives you an idea of the landscaping that pretty much runs across the entire length of the North Aiken parcel. And as you look down Cornwall, you kind of get a hint of the really nice views the parcels have to offer. You can see well beyond East Liberty, and it's really a nice piece of land that's been, I guess, vacant for quite a while. And if you look at the photo on the right here, it turns the corner into what is Elora Way, which is pretty much a rarely used nondescript alley that runs across the rear of the property, parallel to North Aiken, which we intend to use as our vehicular and pedestrian access into the units. These photos just kind of give you an idea of the condition the property's been in for many years. It's really been pretty badly neglected, and it's our intention to transform it. So it's a little bit of a misnomer that we're calling them townhomes, because as you see by the site plan, the reality is they are independently freestanding dwellings. We intend to preserve the hillside fronting North Aiken, which is indicated as landscape slope, and groom it a little bit nicer than it is presently. And the units themselves will be perched kind of at the crest of the hill, which continues to slope, but not quite nearly as steeply back toward Elora Way. As mentioned, you can see the darkly shaded driveways that will access each of the units that'll have an integral garage. There'll be some landscaping along Cornwall as well, with removal of the building. There's been kind of a loss of some structure to that hillside, which will be repaired. And one of the problems we encountered with our geotechnical exploration was a major mine void that exists at the upper part of the parcel, and since that exploration, the developers have had the mine void drilled and grouted such that we are pretty much on terra firma now, and shouldn't encounter any issues in terms of our proposed foundation system. So it's needless to say quite a challenging parcel to develop, between the demolition, the clearing, the coal access, and orientation. We feel we've optimized the development of the property by these 4 new dwellings. And here you can kind of get a rough idea of how they all appear. The drawing on the left would be a view from, I guess, the south east corner of North Aiken and Cornwall. And the drawing doesn't really show the extent of landscaping that presently exists on the hillside, but it would be a really nice green foreground to these units that will be perched up on the hill and kind of stepping in concert with the topography itself. And while the design certainly, this is in a very preliminary stage, we're trying to create these kind of 4 iconic, hopefully to become more like signature elements to the streetscape, whether they become all uniform or multicolored. I mean, those are issues to be developed, but we wanted to create a strong visual presence, and at the same time, the units wanted to exploit the really spectacular views. Erstwhile, the balconies from the upper level and the large window fenestrations. And what's also nice is that there will be a kind of a bonus room at the back behind the garage, and they're kind of split level units that will have individual private access to the rear yard, which kind of faces North Aiken, even though we call it the rear. But we wanted to treat it obviously as the facade. If you look at the other drawing to the right, you can get an idea of the Laura Way access, whereby we're proposing a series of decks with privacy screens so that each of the units would have an outdoor space off of the main living area, and also a protected entry for visitors. And these units face what is presently a large vacant parcel. So even by that standard, there'll be pretty nice views from there, and you can kind of get the sense of how the units will be tiered going down the hill. And the split level is also kind of a response to the geotechnical issues we're dealing with, that there will not be any basement, and we prefer not to excavate any depths lower than 42 inches if possible. So that's pretty much a rough overview of the development as it stands now. Brighton, please feel free to embellish or offer a developer insight.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I can add a little bit to that. So our original plan was to keep the existing home there. We wanted to renovate that and maybe either sell it or use it as a rental property, and then build on the other lots, 3 freestanding single-family homes. But during our due diligence, and it's kind of hard to see from the photo, but there was just some major structural issues that made the home unable to be saved. We definitely tried. We were able to meet the nephew of the prior owner of the home and got a little bit of the history and how long that family had been in Garfield. I think it was in the 1920s, I believe. We've met the neighbor, so that really was our goal, but it just wasn't feasible from an economic standpoint and from a safety standpoint to be able to save the home at that time. So now we're switching gears and focusing on bringing or building 4 free single family homes in the lot, which is quite large when you look at all 3 of them together. It's 22 feet wide by 100 feet, and then the middle one is 44. Thanks, Alan. By 100, and our request is to subdivide the middle one so that we are left with 4 22 by 100 foot lots. And I guess that's the request for the variances, and Alan can add more to that, but to have some side yard variances so that we are able to build homes that are at least 17 feet wide and not more narrower than that, any more narrow than that. So yeah, Alan, besides the side yard variances, can you remind me?
There could be a rear yard variance based upon the elevated deck, but I think that's probably all.
Okay.
But I'd like to add too that by disengaging these as 4 independent units, we're trying to replicate or at least pay homage to the scale of housing that presently exists around Garfield and East Liberty and Bloomfield. I mean, it's kind of a proportionally familiar massing of these units that we feel will befit the neighborhood certainly a lot better than kind of these suburban ranch homes that are adjacent to our property. We did not want to have garage doors facing the street, and really are looking to make a really good fit architecturally speaking with the neighborhood and the community at large.
Thanks, Alan, and thanks, Brighton. Did folks have any questions? I see a hand raised here from a couple folks. Robert Harris, I think you had your hand raised first.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, so I'm your neighbor.
Hi.
Right, and I haven't met you yet. I've met Robbie. He and I share a bit of a history.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of questions.
Okay.
The underground caverns. Obviously, we have the same issue, share the same issue. How do we fix our side of that cavern? Question number 2, code issues. Do we need to upgrade our property in any way to conform to or generally meet any city codes with your development? Basically, how does all of this affect us as your neighbor?
Could you clarify where your parcel is, Mr. Harris? Is it immediately next door?
To the left, yes.
Right here?
Yes.
I don't know if you
Yes.
can see.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a little upside down, but yes.
Okay. In response to your first question, you know, that the mine itself is kind of an ambiguous thing. None of us really had any idea of the extent of it. We did core borings and identified that it was there, but it actually turned out to be larger than we expected and involving significantly more grouting than anticipated as well. In terms of how that affects your property, it's hard to say, because until exploratory holes would be drilled on your side, there's really no means of understanding if there is a void extending to that side or how large it would be. So it's really kind of a crapshoot in terms of any development up in that area. There actually are still some coal seams that hadn't been mined there too that can be problematic in their own right. So it's hard to say. But in terms of any code issues involving your property, I don't see how it should be impacted one way or the other based on what we're proposing. I mean, ultimately, if we could improve Elora Way for this development, it will only benefit all the other parcels going down the street.
I think there's a question in the chat, Philip, about that very issue of the lower way.
Yeah.
And how the project would impact the alley.
Yeah, AJ asked whether the plans for Laura Way, the alley is only narrow enough for one car and the pavement is in very bad shape. I have concerns about the increased traffic on the Laura Way and Warble Streets.
So, can you remind us which one is Warble Street? That might be a silly question, but I'm familiar with Elora, Cornwall, and North Aiken, but I don't know where Warble Street is.
Warble would be north of the site, past Robert Harris's property. So it's a street that runs parallel with Cornwall.
Okay.
And I guess also intersects with the Lower Way further down.
It does. Okay. So Elora Way, and this might have been silly or I'm confusing it with something else, but I thought Elora Way was not a through street, but it is, you're saying. It connects with Warble and that's how you can exit. Okay. Got it. So to answer your question, so we've currently been focusing on, development of the sites, but it's something that we could definitely discuss or, get some guidance on of what needs to do. I think that because this is not a multifamily project, or we're not trying to build, a large scale of units, that traffic, to us wasn't that big of a concern with 4 homes versus, someone coming in and trying to put in an apartment building or a couple rows of townhomes. And now you're looking at, 10, 12, 15 units or different residents. So it will be a slight increase, but it's not something that we think will be problematic, but we are open to exploring how to kind of make sure that the increased traffic, whatever it might be, is not an issue.
Can I add to that question, y'all? This is Nina. Just sort of expanding a little bit though, what about the vehicles that you would have to bring in to build the homes? Are you going to have to level, the lot yard in any way, and would need to bring in big vehicles that might put further stress on, that alley, since they're talking about it already being in bad shape? Will the vehicles be blocking that alley in any way for any length of time, etc.?
So I think because we're building these all at once, and it's such a large lot, that a lot of the machinery can come in off of Cornwall. I think that when we demolished the house and we did the boring and everything else, a lot of that was able to be accessed via Cornwall Street. And we could avoid Elora Way as much as possible.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brighton, do you know where the sewer lines and water lines for the new homes will be connected? Will they be connecting in Elora Way or out on North Aiken Avenue?
So that is a better question for Alan or Tom, and Tom is unfortunately not with us. Alan, are you able to answer that?
Yeah. Let me just grab the larger scale drawing here, since the screen can't be enlarged. The combination sewer line presently is running along North Aiken, so that's likely where our taps will be made. There's a water line that runs along Cornwall and power lines that run along Elora Way.
You said there are water lines on Cornwall, both Cornwall and Elora?
Just on Cornwall or water lines.
Okay.
I mean, there's also a water line on North Aiken.
Yeah. Looks like AJ may have a follow-up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, with the alleyway, I think there is more conversation there. Even with increased cars, I don't know if it would need to be one way, like with cars backing out. I think there needs to be, yeah, just more thought put into that. I guess my other question is the 4 seems like a really tight squeeze on those lots. And there are skinny homes in Garfield, but there are also ranches and larger yards. And I guess what's the reason behind squeezing 4 units as opposed to doing three units there?
Yeah. Economically, it made the project more feasible to put 4 versus 3. That's the answer. So we couldn't undertake this project and just do 3.
Well, there's also the fact that
And
the outer 2 parcels are already, we're not really messing with. I mean, those were already narrow lots to begin with. So all we did was subdivide the middle one to balance them.
So the variance you need, like permission on, would make 4 units possible. So if you don't get permission to do that, does that mean the project doesn't happen, or what would be the result?
We would have to evaluate. I'm not sure I can answer that now, but we would have to kind of take a look
Okay.
and see at our costs. Yeah, at this point in time.
Let me jump in.
Okay.
We would have to reevaluate. We would also reevaluate if there's a way of designing it to have more units that would be smaller, stacked perhaps. So we were trying to come up with a plan that worked for everybody in a single family manner versus crowding more units that were smaller.
All right. I know that Mary had her hand up earlier. Did you still have a question, Mary?
Hello? Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay, my question is, first of all, I was under the impression that, and the property that they purchased was purchased actually from my aunt. And we were under the impression that they were building 2 houses instead of the 4 now being built. My question to the city is how is it possible that a variance can be given for 4 properties, and when I was going to build on to the adjacent property to them, although it wasn't the city, my builder told me that I didn't have enough property to add on to my house and now you have somebody that's coming into the neighborhood with lots of money who can go down to the city and petition for a variance for 4 properties.
I think the variance in this case is just for is it just for the middle parcel, or is it
Yeah, I
for
mean,
multiple
the outer
parcels?
2 parcels are already legal.
Okay, they're legal for 3 houses, not for 4, correct? Is that correct?
Is the zoning R2H? Is that correct?
Let me look it up here.
Because if that's the case and we have 3 lots, I think technically you could build 6 units total, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but they have to be attached. The 2 would be. But I'm not sure.
And my other question was, you are now facing, so you're not going to be facing Aiken, you're going to be facing, your property is going to be facing the alleyway, Allure Way, is that correct?
The garages will be, but we plan to have kind of a presence, just the views coming from the Aiken side.
Okay, where's the front of your housing going to be? Is it going to be facing Aiken, or is it going to be facing Allure Way?
When you say front, do you mean like the main
I
entrance?
mean, the front of the house.
Oh.
You have a front and a back. So is the front of your house going to be facing Aiken, or is it going to be facing Allure Way?
Allure
Because
Way.
now you have all this property on Aiken with a front entrance, so to speak. And now here you come and you're going to make everything face the other way.
So the parking and the main entrance to the home will be off of Allure Way for the homeowner. The views and a balcony and everything else, and outdoor space will be facing Aiken.
Okay, so that just kind of messes up the neighborhood because everyone else is facing the frontwards and you're facing the backwards. And plus you're asking, I'm just not in agreement with how you're building these houses. And if it comes down to now you're interfering with Allure Way going down the Warble, so you're affecting them also with the traffic. And it just isn't making sense to me. So now I have to try and buy the lot next door so that I can add on to my property. Because I would need a variance, but you can move right on up in here and double the space. Who is the city protecting is what I want to know. Because it doesn't sound like you're protecting the neighborhood with granting you a variance.
Well, the variance hearing has not happened yet, so.
I mean, but I'm just letting you know how I feel.
Yeah, I understand.
And about the whole situation. And I'm not for the variance is what I'm saying. I'm just putting it right out there for you.
Yeah, you're able to testify at the zoning board hearing. And if you provide your contact information, I can send you, when that hearing may be. If you'd like to testify there, or if you'd like to send a letter to the zoning boards, expressing your concerns, they'll take a look at it and have that as part of their review of the project.
Okay, but the project needs to be reevaluated to me on how it's facing the street. I mean, I'm just giving opinions here, but like I said, you're like the whole neighborhood is now changing because of these 4 houses.
Well,
I would like, I just want to add one quick thing is And Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I walked down the hill when we met. But you go in and out of your house from Allura Way, don't you?
I go in and out of my house from either way I choose.
No, I understand, ma'am. But I'm pretty sure the neighbor that I was talking to, asking about Robert, like when we met, that he goes in and out from Allura Way as well as we would.
Can you guys hear me?
My front door, the address of that property says 517 North Aiken, which means the front of that building faces Aiken, not Allura Way.
So you would be fine with everything if our front door faced Aiken. You'd be happier with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this is Robert. And
Robert,
Mary is my mother.
Oh.
She owns the property.
Wait, Mary, did we meet? Well, who did I meet with the dog?
That was Mary.
Okay. So the house right next to me, you enter in and out kind of, it seems, from Allura. But Mary, you would, if we can get the front doors on entry onto Aiken, that would, if we can figure out how to do that, that would make you a lot happier.
I think it would make the neighborhood happier because everything faces the front of Aiken. Aiken is the main thoroughfare on the street. And you're trying now to make Allura Way the main thoroughfare.
No, well,
and it's not big enough. If you go back to the picture where you're looking down Allura Way, you see my red Nissan on the left. There's not enough space for that amount of traffic up and down Allura Way. It'd be chaos. Not to mention
part of I'm sorry.
when the snow hits,
4 houses,
and they're trying to get up and down that alley.
Well, what they're saying is they're not going to make it an alley. Evidently, they're going to have to get another variance to make the street wider back there because it isn't wide enough. Yeah. So they're going to have to go back for more property in that vacant lot back there in the back.
That they bulldozed.
No, I don't
know. They haven't bulldozed there, but they're going to have to use part of that alley to make another street, which means now they're going to need another variance to widen the alleyway.
Well, when they did bulldoze that back property, that city lot in back of AJ's house, and they parked their trucks there so they can fit all of their equipment down Cornwall and through Allura.
Just a note that variances are not used for street widening. I'm not sure if
that street because there's not enough alleyway.
Alan or Brian, have you met with Domi and their staff about the curb cuts? And
we've received feedback, but the only meeting we've had is on that pre-application meeting with everybody.
Okay.
And then what are we going to do about the streets after all the construction? These are huge trucks. That drill machine they brought up looked like a rocket. All of the traffic coming up into Garfield with these huge trucks is tearing up our streets.
A star, Mama. A star when it is in the night. I see the star.
Well, any damage caused to Allura Way by the development will be restored and actually in better condition than before the work begins.
Yeah, it wasn't much to begin with in the beginning.
Why you laugh?
Because Mr.
Is Renee Foreman on the call?
I do see her in the attendee list. I'll allow her to talk.
Because she's directly across the street. So I'm just curious how she feels about having the backside of the property to her to facing her.
Renee, I allowed you to talk if you'd like to speak. Renee, it looks like you're unmuted now. Think we'll go back to Renee. We have a comment from Chad in the Q&A. I have great concerns about the proposed cost of these units and what that will mean for the other homeowners. These are very small homes to be sold for $490,000. I understand that new construction is expensive, but that seems very high. And to that end, I do not know anyone currently living in Garfield who could come close to affording these homes. Is there any way to lower the costs and to make them affordable?
We got any money.
So it's something that we've looked into, but given the scope of building 4, it's not something that we're going to be able to offer any kind of subsidizing or, make this a lower price point. This is based off of other homes in the area that are selling for slightly lower amount, slightly lesser amount. And with construction and the grouting and everything that we've had to do for the coal subsidiation in order to make that land usable in any way, shape, or form, we're going to be likely in the high 400s range.
Chad, I've unmuted you if you'd like to add on to that.
Oh, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I appreciate your answer. I don't know the first thing about all that you're having to do to take the property and make it into 4 houses. How many bedrooms are they going to be?
They're going to be 3 bathrooms.
I'm sorry.
Or 3 bedrooms. I'm sorry. 3 bedrooms. 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know that the house across the street, Caddy Corner, just sold, and that was pretty expensive in my taste. But I mean, I don't. It feels like my neighbor Mary, as she was saying. I mean, we know that property values are increasing in our community, and I think the majority of us, including homeowners, are not real pleased about the drastic increase. I think we want all of our property values to increase, and so certainly this potentially could benefit some of us, but it seems like it's just jumping so high so quickly. I mean, these houses, there's no house. I mean, the house across the street sold for $150,000 less than what these are proposed. So they're really not that close to what you guys are going to have to sell these for. I mean, I know there's a couple homes that have sold in the 300s, like the one across the street. But I just think it's kind of a change that I think most people are not looking forward to. I can't speak for everybody. I am a pastor in the neighborhood. I live 2 blocks from where you're going to be building. But the most people who I talk to, if not, I would say 99% of them, I think there's 1 or 2 who are pretty comfortable with this, but by and large, you know, the thousands who live in Garfield are not feeling this. And just so you know, I don't think it feels like, you know, again, I don't doubt the beauty of the view. I have a nice view from my home. I personally think there's a lot better views in Garfield than where you guys are building, sorry to say. But, you know, for homeowners, but also, I mean, we have a large community of renters. Some of them are, you know, public housing renters, low income. And I, you know, I would love to see this work and everybody be happy, but I'm just not so sure you guys have thought it out to the level that you know, long term, either this community is going to change drastically and become a wealthy community, which $500,000 homes to me are, I mean, again, I'm not an economist, but that's higher, you know, middle class, upper middle class to rich in my mind. I mean, I think you can get homes like that in Fox Chapel still today. Either way, that's just my concern. And I think if there's any way, we in the community, I mean, Garfield is a wonderful neighborhood with people who have lived here for decades and decades, not only owners, but renters. I mean, some of the people who live in the housing development right behind and down the street from these homes have lived there for 30, 40 years. So it is a wonderful neighborhood.
Well, it is now.
Of committed families with children. So it's a great place to move to. But I think that it would be great if we could work with you. We do have some housing partners with our church to make these homes more part of the community as opposed to feeling that's just my 2 cents.
And thank you for sharing. Rick, are you still here?
Are you asking me if I'm still here?
Yes,
still
sorry, I
here.
didn't see you on the side screen.
Uh-huh.
So when you spoke with Robbie and I, we had some discussions on some of the things that are happening in Garfield currently to ensure that there are, you know, options at different price points. Can you add a little bit to that? Because we had asked some questions about possibly, you know, making one of these affordable homes. And since we're doing 4 and not a larger scale, it's not a feasible project in order to do so. So I know that you said there were some projects in the works. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I think most of the people on the call tonight know that there are plans for building affordable for sale homes and rental homes that are on the drawing boards for the neighborhood. So there is going to continue to be a mix of housing that's being offered in Garfield. It's not going to tilt all the way towards market rate as is being presented tonight. I think the concern, Brighton, that you're hearing from Chad and others is that at these particular price points, what they're concerned about is that, you know, future market rate development will continue to happen, which I think we all acknowledge is possible. And that market rate development will continue to change what the neighborhood has been historically. So our organization, along with several others in the community, Open Hand Ministries, East Liberty Development, have all focused on the affordable side of housing development. And in the last 15 to 18 years, there have been about 130 affordable homes added to Garfield, with about 50 market rate homes also added during that time. So that's kind of extending back to 2002. So our organization is committed to doing affordable housing and with private developers to mix in affordable units into their projects whenever possible. And I heard you say, you know, tonight, and even when we talked about a month ago, that from your standpoint, turning one of these homes into an affordable unit would not work unless we were able to bring some subsidy dollars to the table on your behalf, and thus underwrite the cost of one of the four at least, so that it would be within reach of somebody who would be typically looking to buy a home in Garfield today. So, you know, there are parallel tracks happening. We've got market rate development happening. It's happening on North Aiken Avenue already, down in the 200 and 300 blocks. In the winter, after March 1st, there will be another 25 affordable rental homes going up in this section of Garfield, from basically North Aiken Avenue over to North Atlantic Avenue. But I'm not sure that a project like that will necessarily qualm the concerns or the fears that people have. You know, it's not an easy task for people to, you know, hear or to explain to people how housing markets work.
Hey, Rick, Robert.
Did you want to
The
say
one
something?
thing, yes, sir. Nice to see you, by the way.
Okay.
I think the biggest issue that we're all concerned about, or exactly that, taxes, the next evaluation, property increase in value means we pay more taxes.
To answer that question very quickly, there is no reassessment of property planned for Allegheny County at this time. That would have to be agreed to by the county executive and the county council. The last one that was done over 10 years ago did not go very well and created a lot of unhappiness among county residents. So I think your property or any property on North Aiken Avenue is not going to suffer an increase in real estate taxes as a result of this project. Where that could change is if the county were to decide to go in at some future date and do a countywide reassessment. They could then look at a property on North Aiken Avenue that's assessed today for, let's say, $50,000, and very well say, I think we could make that 100,000 because look at on North Aiken Avenue. So the project tonight would not raise taxes, nor would any of the other market rate developments that are happening until there was a countywide reassessment.
The other question was about market rate. What exactly does that mean?
Well, I'll take a crack at it and anyone else can jump in. Market rate basically means that the project is going to be sold, or the house is going to be sold for the cost of development with whatever profit is added into that number that the developers believe the market can sustain. So it's always a question of, you know, who is going to be the potential buyer and how much would they be likely to pay for a house on North Aiken Avenue that's built in this fashion. So
how does that affect those of us that purchase these houses for $28,000?
You mean like the house that you're living in, for example?
Yeah.
Okay. How does it affect you directly? What it would probably
Anyway.
do, well, what it would probably do, Robert, is it probably would boost the value of your home over time. That's what we're seeing in Garfield. We have longtime residents in Garfield right now who've lived here as long as you have, and they're putting houses up for sale, and they're not looking to take a cut or a reduced price on their home. They're looking to sell the house for what they also consider to be the market value. So we have homeowners now who, for the first time in their lives, are realizing some wealth from having stayed in the neighborhood as long as they have. So that's the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin that I think we've heard on the call tonight is the people who are really in danger are people who are tenants, right? People who are renting a house in Garfield. And when developments like these happen, you can bet that the owners of rental properties are also paying attention. And when that rental property goes up for sale later on, as Chad and AJ and others were alluding to, it's not going to go up for sale at a cut rate price. It's going to go up for sale at a market price. And of course, the tenants then would be very much challenged in being able to remain. That's the downside of what we would call gentrification. The upside is existing homeowners and property owners in Garfield are going to benefit substantially, whether the house is on North Aiken Avenue or on Kincaid Street or on North Atlantic Avenue. For decades, homeowners in Garfield had to take a loss when they sold their homes because the word of mouth on Garfield was very bad. Now the word of mouth about Garfield, as Chad was kind of hinting at, is much better. And that's why I think these developers have come into the neighborhood, because they now think Garfield is a neighborhood that's on the rise. We can argue about that or debate that point, but that's why this project is happening. This project would not have happened 30 years ago.
It wouldn't have
I'm
happened
with you,
10 years
Rick.
ago.
I love the idea, and I thank you for your effort. You know, I have a
I
business
have a
that I'm trying to
question.
run.
I
This
have a
is very important to
question,
all of us.
I think Robert is talking. Is it Robert?
Question. Rick, what does it cost for you to build a home in Garfield?
Are you asking me that question?
Yes. Because they're
Charlie,
saying that, what I'm trying to get at, they're saying it's not profitable enough for them to build anything less than 4 houses. When you've been building houses for so long,
right.
how is it profitable? I mean, how's it profitable for you to build a house, but not profitable for them?
And the answer to that question is we are a nonprofit, Peg. So our goal on every project is to break even, but not to take a loss nor make a profit. What we have found now is that to build a 3-bedroom, single-family house in Garfield with even 2 baths, such as other developers have proposed to build that kind of a house today, the starting point for construction is about $300,000. And that's a house that's about 1,400 to 1,500 square feet. So what we've started to do now is we've started to shrink the footprint of this very same house so that we can build a house that maybe only has 1,250 square feet and still has 3 bedrooms, at least a bath and a half, a basement, and a driveway. And what we'll do, Peg, is we'll go to the URA and we'll say, even to build that house, I need a subsidy of at least $100,000 so I can put a sales price of $199,900 on that house and sell it at a much more affordable price. And the URA and the state of Pennsylvania and some other sources have subsidy dollars like those that we've been able to do. So otherwise, we would not be able to build anything either and have it be affordable. It's about $100,000 per unit subsidy that's needed to take a market rate house and move it down to being an affordable house. And in some cases, may even be a little bit more than 100,000.
So can I just add to that also? We definitely explored putting 3 on there, but if we had built only 3, or if we could, I think, and it made sense, and we could do that, we would have, because we wouldn't have had to request any variances. We wouldn't be going through some of these things that we need to go through if we were, able to build 3 homes. And so it's just not feasible for us economically to just build 3.
Am I on mute or unmute? Can you hear me?
You're unmuted.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, just, I think like echoing kind of Chad, I live right across from Robert, so I'm right there. It is very hard to imagine a potential buyer for a house in the upper 400,000s, considering the surrounding infrastructure in that property and in Garfield. So it's hard to envision buyers for that, but I did, and going back to the feasibility, if building 3 at market rate is not affordable, I mean, have you considered if you did 3 at market rate and then 1 affordable housing? So that would be like a compromise between those things?
Yeah, we looked at that as well, but unfortunately the cost to build all 4 of those units would not be a possibility for us. So one of the things that we discovered, and they touched on it a little bit early in the presentation, is that the coal subsidence. So basically, we did what's called a geotechnical report, where they drill into the ground to find out what's underneath it. Is it safe to build here? And we discovered that there used to be a coal mine there. And so we had to spend a considerable amount of money in order to be able to build it there, way more than we ever imagined. So even more so now,
Well, that's your fault.
ability.
We knew about it.
Exactly.
I'm sorry? Cut out.
I think what Robert was saying is we all knew there was coal mines up here. Like that was disclosed when I bought this house. Was that something that you weren't aware of, or it was just more of a problem than you had anticipated, knowing that
It
was
wasn't-
a potentiality?
It wasn't disclosed to us when we bought the property. And then
That's
when
between you and the city.
when we discovered that that was a thing, it was the scope that we thought it was going to be was something very, very, very minor.
Mhm.
And so then it
You could
turned
have
out
asked
to
us.
be-
Our grandparents used to coal mine right underneath us. Everybody used to do
That
it.
doesn't have anything to do with it. When they brought the property, that I was under the impression that first of all, the whole hill was undermined. Anyone building anywhere had to know that that property had coal mines, was undermined. The whole hill was undermined.
It's a fact.
So I'm very surprised. Now you might not have known the extent,
Yes.
but I'm very surprised that you didn't know that that property was had coal under it.
We didn't understand that or the extent to which we found.
Okay.
Who's to say that by filling in those caverns, we don't experience shifting and collapsing?
So I think that we have reports and everything that we've done that it affects our site. And I don't know if Alan can add some more to that.
Your site affects our entire neighborhood. Literally.
So there.
Well, we knew that there was a coal seam. We did not know that there was a mine void.
I know, but you gotta be quiet.
We have a few more questions from Chad. Market value is get as much as you possibly get for something, no? And if you had asked anyone from the neighborhood, we would have told you. Not sure if that's related to the coal mine.
Yeah,
Related to
I
the-
was echoing Robert, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So market rate or market value is based on doing, market research in the neighborhood. And so it's based on new builds and not what, existing homes are being sold for. And so in Garfield, a little bit farther down the hill, were some homes that recently sold in the low 400s. They're smaller, they have less parking, they have less views. It's a little, not as good of a location. And so that's where the price comes from when we say market rate. It's comparable to others. And then you just do kind of an apples to apples. How many bathrooms, how many bedrooms? What does it look like inside? So that's where it comes from.
You mean the ones on Black?
That looks like a boat.
Yes, I believe those are the new ones, right?
Right. Yeah, one of those was made affordable.
Yep.
The other one
Mhm.
was about 400,000. And though, I mean, my thing again is this just, they're so small compared to, and I guess, you know, that makes me wonder who you're targeting. Not that it's any of my business, but I mean, this is a community, you know, really of families. Not that a family can't live in 3 bed. I mean, I have a lot of kids, so I need more than 3 bedrooms. But that being said, I mean, yeah, it's hard to imagine somebody. And I mean, the one thing about these houses is you know, Black Street is kind of like a thoroughfare. People drive through it, even with the speed bumps. It's not so much like the neighborhood, even though it is.
All right.
Like Aiken right there. I mean, that's you know, that's deep in the goodness of Garfield. And, so yeah, I mean, I'm just still stuck on.
She right here.
I mean, you gotta be a millionaire to buy one of those houses, don't you?
There's trees. There's one tree, but I got two gas branches.
It's like we have a question from Bob. And Bob, I've allowed you to talk.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Bob.
Hello, everyone. I just have a few things that's on my heart. One is, with a major investment like this, I'm sure a lot of research was done. So I don't appreciate being told you didn't know certain things. Brighton, Robbie, and there's someone else. So please don't do that. You know, we know we're smart enough to know that with a major investment like this, all due diligence was done, all the research was done to know where you were building. There's no way you didn't know that. Two, you know, this is my first time having a conversation with a developer in this manner. And maybe we can talk another time. You may not want to answer this now. I don't know where you guys live, where you grew up, but do you guys consider how this affects the conscience of folks and how it changes culture and neighborhoods? Does developers care about that? I really don't think so. I'm a lifelong resident of Garfield. I'm witnessing the transformation as it's taking place right in front of me. I just went and observed a house sitting on top of a hillside that I know is undermined, and I was afraid when we went up there to turn around because I didn't want to go over the cliff. But yeah, I just gotta ask, you know, do you guys consider, you know, how it just changes the mindset, the culture, how it makes people feel? And I know the answer, you don't care. But I just have to say that, you know, I get letters to my home often from developers wanting to purchase my home. I recently got a letter to the space I work in regarding purchase. And I call the folks. I don't care what time it is at night. There's times I've come in the house at 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, and I try to call the people because I try to tell them, you know, I'm not coming into your neighborhood to purchase your home. So please don't contact me to purchase mine. So I know you guys, you know, really don't care. And as I said, this is something that's truly on my heart. And I had to get it off. And I see how you strategically referred to Rick about the process. And in the beginning of the conversation, the presentation, the BGC's position was led first. You know, and I don't appreciate this. I don't appreciate, you know, being told some things weren't done. There's some things you didn't know. I don't appreciate, you know, you diverting things to the BGC. We all know the position of the BGC. We know Rick's position in the neighborhood. We know what Rick has to do and what he's trying to do. This is truly all on you. So again, going back to me in my heart, I would love to know, do you people care about those types of things? Because I know if I went to Mount Lebanon with $10 million with my complexion, they may consider it because money moves a lot of things. But if they knew it was going to change the culture, it was going to change the rich history, there's no way my $10 million will be accepted. You know, this city is so rigid, they won't let Mark Cuban purchase anything in this city. You know, because they know he's going to change the culture. So I just need you guys to know that, understand that, and know that that's how we feel. You know, and that's truly how I feel. And at some point in time, I would hope we could cross paths so you can answer my question as to whether or not you truly care about those things. So that's it. Mr. Wu, you can mute me again. I'll do my best to listen. I'll try. But this is very difficult. Very difficult. Thank you.
Do we have any responses to that from developer team?
Yeah, I mean, if you would like me to respond, otherwise, you know, sitting down and meeting the neighbors or more of the neighbors is something we're definitely open to doing. I can tell you that Robbie and I, and, you know, building homes, we are in real estate, we are in, you know, construction, and a lot of our projects have been commercial. Robbie was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and I'm from the Midwest and recently moved here so that I could focus on this and focus on what, you know, what we're trying to do. But we're not trying to do anything large scale. Building these homes is not something that's going to be a long-term business for us. We saw what we thought was a vacant home, and it sat empty for 3 years, and a vacant lot. And we weren't putting anyone in our minds out of a home, which is something, whether you guys would choose to believe it or not, is something that's important to us. We're not going in and trying to change a community. And from our perspective, building 4 homes in a neighborhood that, you know, is changing a little bit, and from our perspective, it's changing in the right direction. But again, I don't live there, so I'm not, you know, it's not fair for me to say. But the scope of project that we were thinking of doing, we didn't think would have a negative impact on those around it, and instead viewed it as a positive thing, that we would be making it look a little bit nicer, but not having a very large scale impact of trying to do a multifamily or, you know, bring in 12, 15, 20 different units to that site. But Bob, I would love to, you know, come by, say hi, or if you want to give me a call, I'm happy to discuss with you further. Or any
You should have did that before you build it.
Also, in regards to your research, I'm sure you know what type of people purchase these types of properties. Can you please share that with me? You know, I've talked to Rick about, you know, just new homes and the transformation, and it none of it gives a true neighborhood feel, because these folks don't come outside, right? They go to work, they come home, no one's connected to anyone. But I'd like to know what type of folks purchase these kinds of things. I know there's a major tech boom here in Pittsburgh. I'm sure you guys have already eyed your potential buyers already. What type of folks are on that list? What type of professions?
Yeah, so for this price point of home, there's a lot of different neighborhoods in this city that you could choose to live in. You could live in Bloomfield, you could live in Shady Side, you could live in Squirrel Hill, you could, like someone had mentioned earlier, probably buy a smaller home in Fox Chapel. So once you reach that high $400,000 price range, you have a lot of options in the city of Pittsburgh. So what you're looking for is a particular feeling, a particular neighborhood. So it's somebody that wants to be in the middle of the city, but not feel like they're in the city. And our demographic is more somebody that likes the vibe of Garfield, thinks that it has a lot going on. And it's, you know, when we talked to the realtor that we were going to use, she said that she has some girlfriends that a long time ago purchased homes in Garfield, and they're very happy. So it's more of a creative mind person. It's more of a community person, somebody that wants to be near the farm. They want to be around more of, you know, the greenery that Garfield has to offer, but also be connected to the rest of the city.
Great answer. Thank you.
Yep.
AJ, it looks like you have your hand up. Did you
Oh, I probably just forgot to put it down. Sorry,
Okay.
after my last question. I will do that now.
Alan and Brighton and Robbie, do you have a date from zoning when your hearing is supposed to be?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Do we have any more comments or questions from folks before we open it up to just the community to talk internally? All right. There are no more comments from people. Thank you to the Split Rock team for taking the time to present. And I believe, yeah, we're ready to just have community members on for the remainder of this meeting. So I'll turn off the recording at this time.